Howdy everyone. Today we're going to look at the 8 basic comma rules. And the reason we're going to look at the 8 basic comma rules is because we want to take the guesswork out of comma placement. Let's look at the first basic rule for commas. And the first rule we have is we use commas to separate 3 or more items in a list. These items in a list may refer to a series of nouns, verbs, or word groups like a phrase or a clause. Let's look at a couple of examples. In the first example, we're only using 2 nouns. Therefore, we do not separate them with a comma. Brad and Jonathan went fishing over the holidays. But in the next sentence, we have 3 nouns in a series. Therefore, we use the comma. Brad, Jonathan, and David went fishing over the holidays. Let's look at a couple of more examples. My friend cleaned, mowed, and watered my lawn while I was sick. James had cereal, toast, and juice for breakfast. When we use commas to separate 3 or more items in a list, we must be aware of the Oxford comma debate. What is the Oxford comma? The Oxford comma is the last comma in a series of words, and it is placed before the conjunction "and," as we will see in the example below. Let's look at the example. James had cereal, toast, and juice for breakfast. Notice there is no comma before the conjunction "and." James had cereal, toast, and juice for breakfast. Now we have added the Oxford comma. Why is the Oxford comma necessary? We use the Oxford comma to clarify the meaning of a sentence. Let's look at the sentence below. I find inspiration in cooking, my family, and my dog. Notice without the Oxford comma, confusion may arise, leading to unintended meanings. This confusion is cleared up by using the Oxford comma. I find inspiration in cooking, my family, and my dog. In other words, what the person is saying is this: I find inspiration in cooking as well as my family and my dog. Rule number 2. We use commas to separate certain parts of a date. For example, I received my license on Monday, September 21, 2008. Sunday, March 17th, 2021 was a significant day in my journey of life. Please note, we use a comma after the date when it is in the middle of a sentence. Rule number 3. We use commas to separate direct quotations from the rest of the sentence. For example, the professor asked, "When will you graduate from college?" "Stop the car," the policeman shouted. Notice there is a difference in the next example. "Stop the car!" exclamation mark, the policeman shouted. Please note, if a quotation ends with an exclamation or question mark, it does not need a comma. Rule number 4. We use a comma when we connect 2 independent clauses together with a coordinating conjunction, such as for, and, nor, but, or, yet, so. Let's look at some examples. The weather was good, so we decided to walk in the park. Jenny finished work early, but she still stayed late at the office. James loves to play football, and he practices every afternoon. Peter studied diligently for the exam, yet he didn't do so well. Rule number 5. We use a comma to set off certain words, such as nouns of direct address, words in apposition, and words like yes, no, hey, and well. Let's look at some examples. Timothy, sit down before you do something you regret. We all dislike Samuel, the biggest liar in class. Yes, I will wait by the phone for mother's call. People, don't be deceived by the smooth-talking salesman. Rule number 6. Use commas with participial phrases. Now, participial phrases take 2 forms. Present participle, and the present participle ends in ing. And past participle, and the past participle ends in ed. Let's look at some examples. Destroyed by the fire, the homeowner began cleaning up the mess. Summing up the situation, the thief surrendered to the authorities. He did his best, hoping to receive an award. The crowd, yelling at the top of their voices, persuaded the police to let the young man go free. Rule number 7. We use commas with introductory words, especially after introductory clauses, and these clauses are usually dependent clauses. Dependent clauses do not have a complete thought, but we also use a comma after introductory phrases. Let's look at a couple of examples. In the cool of the afternoon, I usually go for a walk. Since I started exercising regularly, I feel much better. In retrospect, I should have been more cautious. While I was waiting for the phone call, I was distracted by the commotion outside. As you can see, the introductory clauses and phrases are separated by the comma. Rule number 8. Use commas with parts of addresses. Or we could say we use commas between parts of an address. Let's look at 2 examples. I was born in Miami, Florida. We are going to Phoenix, Arizona for my sister's wedding. Please note, we use a comma after the last word in the address when it is in the middle of a sentence. You can learn more about comma placement by going to grammarmedia.com, where you will find an explanation of the 8 basic comma rules with examples.